Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low magazine? Because 4Low magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Ricky Artez. Ricky is an old mod stock competitor back in We Rock, and also the owner of Jeepers Den, and does a lot of social runs in the off-road industry. And we're going to talk to him about his life, early life, and how he got into off-road, and about Jeepers Den in Florida there. And so, Ricky, thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for having me, Rich.
Let's just jump right in like we always do and say, hey, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and lived there till I was 10. And then we moved to the U.S. with my mom and have lived here since, and the rest of my family's all down there.
Okay. So a little West Side Story going on?
Yeah, there you go.
So what were the years like in Puerto Rico? I'm sure you remember it since you were there until 10.
Well, I was there till I was 10, and then I went back, a lot. Anytime I was off of school, I went back and stay with my dad.
Okay.
Early life in Puerto Rico, man, it was good. I mean, we did, all the things that you think about we should have done when we were kids. It would rain and you get a leaf off of a plantain tree or something, and you ride that down the gutters, and then you go ride your bike through the water, and you run around barefooted, and all the stuff that all the kids should be doing, right? And we just played. We just went out and did stuff. Not much. School was good. I learned English because my mom was adopted. So when we went to my grandparents' house after school, you spoke English there, and then you spoke Spanish at home. But man, it was just fun down at the beach all the time. And then I moved to the U.S. And when I went back, it was just fun times, because I didn't have to go to school. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything. So I went back quite a bit till I was 15. And then after that, I just kind of went back a couple times a year after that.
Okay. And I've never been down to Puerto Rico or any of the islands in that area, the Caribbean, I guess that is.
Yep.
I know it's a U.S. territory and has voting rights and all that kind of stuff, but what is it like compared to the other islands down there?
Man, Puerto Rico's nice. I mean, it's, there's the bad areas just like anything else.
Right.
But as long as if you're a tourist and you go to the tourist areas, they usually don't, you're usually not going to get messed with. But it is a beautiful island. I mean, it's got a lot to do there. Rainforest, it's got beaches, you got anything. We off-road like crazy down there. So, I mean, there's just everything you can think about you can do there. But it's definitely a beautiful place.
So were sports, I would imagine soccer was probably pretty big?
Yeah, soccer was always big, basketball, baseball.
Okay.
Those were usually the 3 main ones.
So when you were in school, were you scholastic, or did you play sports, or were you just did your own thing?
In high school, I've always been in choir and stuff like that, and I played soccer.
Okay.
Did some basketball, but I was always a big time into singing, and then soccer was my main thing. And then, man, from the time I was 14, I had to get a job, so I always worked, played sports, and did my thing. But then school wasn't for me after that. So I did a year or two of community college, and then decided to get out.
Okay, and when you said you needed to work, what kind of jobs did you have, or was there one specific job?
Oh no, I worked at Hardee's, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, then finally went to work for Publix and stayed there. And then, about the time I turned 18, I had said, man, I don't really ever want to work for anybody ever again. So I quit most of my jobs and started my detailing business, and detailing got into accessories, and from accessories it got into where I'm at now.
Okay, detailing. So you had a detail shop where you just did car polishing and cleaning and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, we did. Yep, we actually did window tinting for a while, and then I ended up and then I went to mobile. And then after mobile is when I decided this isn't for me anymore. I need to do something different. So I need to get out of the sun.
So let's let's discuss those early jobs. I've never been one that works really well for another company or another person. I've always wanted to be the boss, or always became a boss really quick. Was that what you found?
Yeah, man, it was, at 14 years old at Dunkin' Donuts, I mean, at Hardee's at the time, I remember, I think a weekend, I was already in managerial positions, but couldn't be called a manager because I was too young. Same thing about a year or two later when I went to Dunkin' Donuts, same deal. And then I was working at Publix at the same time, and I think I became a bagger at first, and I don't even think I was a bagger for 2 days, and they moved me up to stock clerk, and then from there I ended up just taking over a whole aisle and stuff that the other guys would do. But yeah, I'm like you, man. I just couldn't. I always gave it too much, so I just decided. That's why I decided when I was 18. I'm like, man, I can't work for other people. I'm gonna have to do this on my own. So decided to go on my own and do other. I started, like I said, I started with that. I did neon lights for a while. At the beginning, I was still in high school, and got into neon lighting, which was under the cars back then. It was the tubes, it wasn't like all the LED stuff is nowadays.
Right.
So you had to figure out how to hide the tube under a car so you couldn't see it. And then back then it was still illegal in Florida, so we were fighting the state to get them approved, and it was a lot of fun. And then, like I said, I started detailing, and then stayed at Publix for a little bit at the same time to have a part-time side gig just in case, but it was just easier to do my own thing.
And what part of was this? This was in Florida, I'm assuming. And was that in the Orlando area?
No, I actually lived in Naples, Florida at the time.
Okay, Naples. Yeah.
Um, yep, my mom was down there, and then when I turned 18, I thought I'd conquer the world and go out on my own. And mom said I had to pay $100 a month in rent, and I was like, man, the hell with that. I think I can do this on my own. What are you talking about? So I decided to move up to Virginia, which is where we first moved when we came to the U.S. was in Richmond.
Okay.
So I moved up there and started. Since I didn't have the detailing business going up there, I started at a grocery store up there and worked night shift, and then detailed and went to school during the day.
And the schooling, was that just a general education?
Yeah, man, it was like going to high school for 2 more years. It was all the general stuff. It was like going to high school, but with a little bit more freedom.
Okay. And how long did you stay? Did you stay in that area until you got done with that education, that part of the education, or did you leave before then, or stay longer?
No, I stayed there for a semester or two, and then my mom had moved to Michigan, and at the Silver, she lived in Shelby, Michigan, and right next to that is the Silver Lake Sand Dunes.
Right.
And I went up there to visit. I don't remember when it was. It was probably like October, November, and decided that area was pretty awesome. So I needed to get up there. So I packed up all my stuff and got the moving truck and hauled butt to Michigan. And my mom at the time had just bought a cottage with a little Mexican restaurant up in the front, right there on Silver Lake Sand Dunes, right on the strip. And I lived in the cottage, and started a detailing business in Whitehall at the time, and then kind of did that. and hell, I couldn't even get to work at one point, so I ended up going and buying a snowmobile so I could get to work. Well, that ended up being too much fun, so I wanted to snowmobile more than I wanted to work, so I'd get out of the job at whatever time I could and go sledding the whole rest of the day. And then in April, I think it was April, I went one of the storms. I ended up buying my first Jeep, which is the red YJ that I still own.
Okay.
And I thought, man, this is brilliant for the snow. This will be awesome. Yeah, a YJ doesn't do very well in snow. So decided to go back to riding my sled. And then when April came around, the dunes opened up. So I started going up and playing on the dunes. So, but that lasted till July of that year, man. I didn't stay there very long. It was July, and I took the top off the Jeep, and I still had to have a sweatshirt on, and I just decided, I'm not from up here, man. I'm from Puerto Rico. I need some warm weather. So I ended up moving back to Orlando in '95.
Okay. And so then you're somewhere about 19 or 20 at that time?
Yeah, I was 20 at that point. Yep.
20 at that point. Okay. And when you went to Orlando, what was what drew you to Orlando? And please don't tell me Disneyland.
No, no, it wasn't. I should have said that, but no. My brother was here at the time, and I needed somewhere to go and stay, and just kind of that attracted me to this area, and I stayed with him for a bit, and then kind of went and did my own thing again, and started detailing heavy. And then in '96, my uncle had called me and said, why don't you move to Jacksonville and run my work with me on my fruit business and help me run that better. And so I went up there. He distributed fruits and vegetables to all the restaurants in that area up in Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island.
Okay.
So I went up there and did that for a year, and then decided Orlando was going to be home. So I came back here and did everything I could, got an apartment, kept my business going and all that good stuff. And then been here since.
And with all those different types of jobs that you had, the grocery stores, the fast food, transportation of fruits and vegetables, I would imagine, to the restaurants, what kind of what did those job opportunities give you? What did you pull from them now that you can look back on it?
Oh man. I mean, the biggest thing you pulled out of that was just customer service, and then your work ethic. I was, having to be on time, but I mean, more than anything, I figured out that it almost feels like you weren't ever appreciated enough in those kind of companies. So it was just, I was giving it my all, and I wanted more. I've always wanted more, and it just makes me want to go after more all the time, man. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just one of those things where, you went to work and then you busted your butt, and at the end of your, when you're going to clock out, they still didn't, you still weren't appreciated. So it was one of those things where it just kind of made me just more and more just want to get out.
Right.
Figure out how to be my own boss and make my own times, and then be appreciated for what I had, for what I gave in every day. But I learned a lot, man. I mean, my uncle's business was the funnest one I think I had. It just sucked because you had to be up at like 4 a.m. and go to the warehouse, pick up all the stuff, but just going to all the restaurants, meeting all the people. It was just fun to do that. I drove around, had my own schedule. If I wanted to leave early, I just worked faster. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of free time, so I ended up getting a job at Blockbuster at the time. So I always laugh when I see all these Blockbuster memes and all that stuff. But it was just, that was a fun job. I had it for fun. I didn't care what I got paid. I didn't care about anything. It was just cool to go there in the afternoon and work part time.
Was it cool because of the people that came in, or was it, the clientele, or was it fun because you got free rentals?
Oh no, it was fun because you got to get all the free rentals you wanted. Anything you wanted to do. I've never been into video games, but that was a big thing back then too. And all the kids would come in and they'd get them. But no, that was a fun job. That was a job that you look forward to going to in the afternoon because it was just a blast. The customers were always pretty happy, and people were bringing it. It was just a good time.
I think it does make a difference being in some kind of retail environment where the people are coming in are there to have fun, or to, at least pick up and take home their fun. Whereas so many other retail people are in there, you're dealing with so much of their baggage and their attitude.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you get that feeling at times?
Well, I've always said I have a couple friends that have transmission shops and mechanic shops. And man, I don't know how they do their job. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. We all have our time in our businesses where, it's not a fun day. But at the end of the day, when I go and have lunch with those guys, and just to hear their stories and hear how their attitudes and how their days are going, I don't know how any mechanic wants to have a mechanic shop. I don't know how anybody in a diesel business or transmission shop, every person that comes in your door, like 99% of the people that are walking through that door are already pissed off at you. And that's rough. I mean, you're just dealing with miserable stuff every day, and it's just a downer. So I don't know how people do it. I'm in a great business. I love my job. I love what I do. It's when a person walks through the door, it's 1% of my customers are pissed off because most of the time they broke it while they were having fun, so we're fixing it, or they're buying something that they really want. It's an extra add-on. So we don't have to deal with the negativity right when they walk in the door already mad at you because their car didn't start this morning, or they were driving down the highway and their transmission blew apart. It won't shift into gear. It's always a problem. And for me, I don't know, man. I look at that and I just think I'm glad I'm in what I do.
Right. No, I get that. Having worked in repair shops and everything, I see, I saw that same thing. People would come in and they were mad, not necessarily at you, as the employee of that establishment because their car was destroyed or not working, functioning properly, whatever you want to call it, but that because of the situation that they were in. They knew it was going to cost them money. They knew they were going to miss work. They knew they were going to miss something, and they had to deal with broken equipment. So I totally get it. That doesn't help. You said you liked the snowmobiling. So that was probably pretty much your first taste of off-road, or did you ever have any motorcycles, or what kind of things did you would do as a kid for entertainment besides, that had to do with mechanized, whether it was motorized or pedal power?
Yeah, so and it started in Puerto Rico. My dad was always in Jeep clubs and Suzuki clubs.
Okay.
We had a VW Manx. He was always in the Beatles. So it all started there. We used to go to the beach in the Manx and all that good stuff. And then when the Suzukis first came out, which I don't remember the models of them all, but I remember he had a brown hardtop one before the Samurai. It was the first Suzukis. We always used to go out. I remember going to our property. We have 7 acres on the river, and the club would come out and they'd be climbing up the mountain in front of the property, and just all that stuff, the same stuff that we do now with our Jeeps. We used to do with the Suzukis. And then he got a Suzuki Samurai, a black one, hardtop also. And we kept going from there. And then after that, I came then we moved to the US. So I didn't have an off-road vehicle. I didn't have anything. But when I used to go back, I remember I used to steal my brother's little Honda Spree scooter and ride around on that. And all that good stuff. But off-roading wise didn't really start back up for me till 95 when I got my Jeep and got back onto the dunes. Snowmobiling was a blast. I only got to do that for, a couple months in Michigan. But it was still a great time.
So the time in Michigan, you're living at the front of the sand dunes along the strip, you said. You were working and you were taking the snowmobile to work because of the winter. That to me, it would suck. At least the idea of having to ride an open vehicle to work I know what Michigan weather can be like. What was it like going from that winter and into spring and then seeing the sand dunes opened and everybody out there, they're wheeling? What was that? What's that transition from winter to spring like?
Man, it was it was weird because it was like a fast transition. You were on the sleds, and then all of a sudden it just stops, and then, well, hell, now we got, a lot of people don't have that. They're not fortunate enough to have, you're off the sled now. Hell, we can go on the dunes. I remember the first week on the dunes, we were riding along, and I'm not familiar with the dunes, so I'm just going along, man, and there was like a 6 or 8 foot drop, just a wall, and I didn't see it. And I remember coming off of it with my Jeep, and I mean, just endo in, and the front tires hit, and all of a sudden my buddy's like, hey, stop, stop, stop. Well, on the 4-cylinder Wajays in 1993, they had an aluminum motor mount on the passenger side, right where the oil filter is. So now the driver's side was steel. They had a steel upgrade, but they decided to run the aluminum one on the passenger side. So the motor mount breaks in half. The oil filter catches, and it's all that's holding my motor up. Well, there's oil everywhere. So the first thing, you're trying to clean that up before everybody gets there. But I learned my lesson on that, and man, that's when I started tinkering with it. I just wanted to do stuff with it after that. I remember a guy hooked up to me with paddle tires on a Jeep. And I will tell you that I think till, that was back in 95. I'm still pulling sand out of my Jeep that was from the sand dunes from that day. Because he had to pull me up over all the dunes, because it's a one-way, where I broke was right on the other side of Test Hill. Well, then the rest of the way is one way. Like, you can't turn around, you can't get off of there. So he had to pull me up all the dunes. Either that or he was just doing it on purpose. But either way, I had no top on my Jeep. So when I got back, I bet I had 3 inches of sand inside the Jeep. I mean, them paddle tires will pull out a rooster when they get on it, But it was a good time, man. Just things that we did up there. But to go from that, and then, like I said, in July, you're trying to ride around town and you got to wear a long sleeve shirt. I was like, man, I don't know about this. I think I gotta head south.
So that YJ, how stock was it?
Oh, it was bone stock back then. I mean, it was a 93 YJ. It still is 93 YJ, 2.5 liter. Just bone stock. It was some old couple owned it, and they only drove it in the summer. So I bought it at a dealership, and man, it was a blast though.
And what was, besides the motor mount, what was your first upgrade?
Oh, after that, I think I put tires on it right away, and that was it. I didn't do anything else to it. I had that thing for 95. I moved to here in late 95, and then I went to Jacksonville in 96 to 97, and then came here to Orlando in 97. I still hadn't done anything to it. I think it was still on 31-inch tires, and started detailing again heavy. And I met a buddy of mine, Chuck, and I was at his house one Friday. I used to go over there every Friday and detail all of his vehicles and all his friends' cars and all that. And then one Friday, I'm like, hey, man, you mind if we lift my Jeep up out here? Because he kept telling me that we needed to lift it. So I ended up lifting the Jeep up. We did a spring over on it and put some 33s on it. And that's from there, man, it just started the builds.
And how did was it doing your own work that got you into doing the Jeep business, into Jeepers Den, or did you start that from the ground up, or did you buy it, or did you work for them? And what was give me some history there.
That was on me. In 98, I lifted my Jeep, and then I remember probably about a month later, I met a guy out at what they used to call the SeaWorld Mud Hole, named Barry. And Barry had a Jeep just like mine, 4-cylinder, older one. It was like an 89, so he had the old carbureted throttle body injected or whatever. That thing was a turd. And we used to go out there and have a blast. And then he had a Toyota pickup truck on 44s, like a 1985 or 86, 44-inch Super Swampers. So when we used to go down to the mud hole and he'd bring the Toyota, we used to just hook up a tow strap to my Jeep. And he'd go through, and then if I couldn't make it, he'd just pull me the rest of the way through. We just played. And so one day I told Barry, I was like, man, I said, I think we should start a Jeep club in Orlando. And he's like, whatever, dude, you do whatever you want to do. and Barry's quiet. He doesn't really get into all that. So, started the Orlando Jeep Club, got everything done, corporate, did the bank accounts, did everything how it was supposed to be done, because I went up to Ocala Jeep Club and really learned from them on what I should do down here. Spent about a year with them just shadowing and learning about the club. So on October 24th of 98, that was the actual first day of the Orlando Jeep Club in here in Orlando. And it was Full Parts' grand opening here with their Orlando store. So, man, I went and set up a little table, had my Jeep parked there. And before I knew it, I think we had like 30 members just from that day, just at their store. And that was pretty much the beginning of it. And I kept going with that, still doing my detailing stuff. And about probably sometime around then, I had met my wife at the time. Well, we weren't married yet, but I met her in 97. I think it was July of 97. And she was like, "You're crazy." I don't know, but it was just us doing everything. I mean, we had to do all the positions, the secretary, treasurer, everything, because nobody was wanting to step up. So we had a party at my house. I remember December of 98. And at that point, we had a group of guys that were older gentlemen, well off, called the Gator Crawlers. Well, they joined our club. And Bill Austin and a couple of the other guys that were in that club, they helped me get through to getting VPs and getting everything set up to where, they stepped up and helped. And we had a newsletter and all kinds of stuff. Man, it worked out really well. And in 99, the club just grew like crazy. I think we were already at about 100 members at the time. And then in about 98, 99, I had figured out that I didn't want to be in that sun that I was talking about. So I went over to my Jessica's stepfather, John, and I told him, "Well, what do you do for a living?" He said, "I do real estate appraising." So I'm like, "Well, I need to do it because you sit in an office all day and you're doing pretty well for yourself, and I can't do the sun stuff anymore." So I went and got my appraisal license and did that till 2002. But I also detailed at the same time, still kept detailing. Club was growing. I don't remember what year it was, but sometime around 99, I remember I had a house right off of I-4 in Winter Park, and we had a carport with Pebble 57 rock, which is crushed concrete.
Okay.
And I'd go out there and pull transmissions and work on people's Jeeps on my back and that crap. And so I don't know when it really started, but I started doing stuff for people on the side just for fun and working on my own stuff on my Jeep. I always worked on my own cars, but I didn't start doing the Jeep stuff till probably about then, 99, 2000. And then at the time I was already doing the appraisal stuff. Well, I bought a property out in Wedgefield and got an acre and a half. And then we built a house in 01. And that's when it really started getting heavy, because then I was able to work in a garage. So we worked in our garage. Man, I used to lift all kinds of stuff. Hell, I did a long arm Rubicon Express. And I remember I went to put the tires on the Jeep and I couldn't get it out of the garage. So I had to put the damn thing on jacks and roll it outside and then put the tires back on it. It was, you don't think about that stuff when the garage door's closed and you got to open the door and the door won't open because the top's higher than the door.
Have you ever made that mistake twice?
No, I never made it again.
That's how you learn. It. That's good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, after that in 2002, sometime around 2000 or 2001, I remember I had Jeepers Den was already like a thing in my head. And I made a couple stickers, and it was Jeepers, and then Den was a separate word. And, no business, no nothing. I didn't have any. It was just a name I came up with. And I always wanted a shop that had a den where all my friends could come and hang out and have a place for them to hang out, and we could sit there and tell lies about our off-roading and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So that was kind of my dream. And then in 2002, I came up with this wild idea that I was going to retire in June, and I didn't want to work no more, and I wanted to just kind of do my thing. Well, that didn't last very long. It lasted about 2 weeks, and I was bored out of my mind. So then I went back to work till noon doing appraisals. And then I think it was January 1st, but sometime in December, I told Jessica at the time that, I was going to start a Jeep business. Everybody thought I was an idiot and crazy. But honestly, what got me into it, man, is I just got sick and tired of how I was treated around town when it came to buying products. And I wasn't an internet guy, so I didn't want to deal with Quadratech. I didn't want to deal with those guys. I always liked dealing with the loyal shops, and it was always something. Um, so I just decided I could do it better. And January 1st of 2003 is when I did everything on the corporation. Everything was done. I opened the shop. I worked out of my house for a year. Did pretty damn well from working from a house. And then November of 2003, we got this building that we're in now. And at the time, it was just Alicia's brother, Travis, was working with me. And me, myself, him, and Jessica at the time started remodeling this place. And we didn't open here till February 2nd of 2004 was opening day. And we weren't even done yet. We just opened because people kept asking, when are y'all opening? When are y'all opening? And we just finally decided to open it. I was still painting the damn showroom when they finally started coming in. And it hasn't slowed down since.
Well, that's pretty good. And you weathered the 2008, 2009, 2010, the depression that, well, they called it a recession, but basically it was a depression. And how was that for you to get through those lean times where everybody, all the guys that were spending money, contractors and building people, all of a sudden weren't doing their work?
But yes, I mean, we're heavy into trucks, but our heaviest market was always Jeep. So I guess I didn't do too bad, Rich. I mean, I was still doing We Rock back then. So throughout those years when everybody else was hurting, I was having fun. But yeah, I mean, we noticed it in '08. The contractors that every 6 months were coming in and getting a new truck and new wheels and tires. They weren't coming in every 6 months. That was about the only thing we noticed. It slowed down enough, but everything kind of always fell into place for me. And around the time when that recession time was hitting, so around that time, the contractors that were, every 6 months coming in, they weren't doing that. But the Jeep guys never really stopped doing their stuff. They still wanted to have fun. That market never really slowed down. But like I said, everything was always falling into place. So around that time, 2008, was about the time that I had two techs that wanted to move on, and it kind of worked out because then I was able to keep one or two techs. I think it was two techs stayed, two techs left. And then, so everything kind of worked itself. But we didn't notice it like other places did. I mean, I had friends go out of business. I had, other friends that were, losing their homes and all kinds of stuff over it. But we were fortunate enough, and I've never been bad in business. I've never been in debt. So those kind of times don't really faze me. I don't, when you owe a lot of money and you do all that, that's when you get hurt on that stuff. But I never got in those positions, so I never really felt any of it.
Well, good. So, what year did you get involved? I mean, I still can't figure out how you got involved rock crawling when there is not a single rock bigger than what a piece of crushed rock is in Florida.
Man, so we started going out I started wheeling out of state in probably about '98, late '98. I didn't even have a locker on my Jeep, and I was going to Tellico at the time with some friends from down here. And then in '99, I was fortunate enough to start kind of venturing off, and I was like, man, I want to start going other places. So in '99, I mean, we would go out of state 10, 15 times a year, at the time. And I started going over to Alabama and met Keith at Off-Road Connection and started going to Gray Rock and all that good stuff.
Okay.
And in '99, I went through a phase where we were up in Alabama and we lost a good friend of ours, Mo. He rolled his Jeep, and after that, I went 6 months where I didn't want to wheel or anything. So I didn't want to have anything to do with my Jeep. And finally some friends came over and they're like, we're going to go out. So we got back into it. Kept going to Tellico, and we'd go to Alabama, and we started going to River Rock sometime in late, about 2003, 2004 timeframe. So we were always wheeling out of state. And Oh man, let me think. I went to Moab in 2003 for the first time. We did our Moab Rubicon adventure, which that's a whole nother conversation. But we did that, and I think it was 2004 or late 2003. I went and watched a New Rock race with Kyle up in Paragon, I think it was.
Okay.
And I met Charlie, which you did an interview with him,
Yep.
and I was hooked, man. I mean, it was one of those things where I'm like, man, I know I can do just as good as these guys and have a blast doing it. So I started looking into it, and I remember Charlie's buggy was just, man, he just gave it hell, you know. And then I think at the time he had Unimog axles even back then. But just meeting all those guys and everything like that was a blast. And then in 2004, I think I came to one of your runs, and then went to a couple. Man, it was New Rock, and then there was E Rock, wasn't it?
Yes.
Back then.
Yep.
So I think I went to one of those, and then I think I came up in 2005. I came to watch one more. So I had a customer, this girl that I did a Waj for. She wanted it identical to my red one. Hers was black at the time. I built it up, and a week later she comes in with some black eyes, man. And I'm like, hey, what the hell happened to you, you know? And she's like, I rolled my Jeep last night. I was drunk, and it's parked out on the road. I didn't report it or anything, so want to know what you want to do. Nobody was hurt. It was just me. So I went and picked up the Jeep, brought it here, called her up and told her, you know, this is how much it's going to cost to fix it. She's like, the hell with that. Can you sell it? And I'm like, well, I can try. So about a month goes by, and I called her and I said, listen, what do you want to do with this Jeep? Because nobody's biting on anything. It's pretty destroyed. And she's like, well, what can be done with it? I said, I'll tell you what, sell it to me. I want to get into rock crawling, and it's a perfect Jeep. I don't need the cage off of it. I don't need the windshield frame. I don't need the fenders. All the stuff that was destroyed on it, I didn't need. So if you remember, that was the first rig. It was black with the red JD stickers on it. And I built that up in 2005. I started building it. And I didn't, you know, kind of watching what you're spending and everything like that. You know, I needed an Atlas. I needed a front axle. I needed this. I needed that. Well, at the time, Rancho had just had the buggy built. And in 2006, I came to one of your races in the Rancho buggy. When Rancho really didn't even know what we were doing. Shane just said, just do your thing. Just, I don't want to know about it. So I brought the Jeep. I brought the buggy up, if you remember, in the trailer, and you put me in the unlimited class.
Yes.
And I had, 40-inch tires, 39.5 on Ram, and it was tube chassis. So you said I had to be in the unlimited class. So I had no clue what the hell I was getting myself into, man. And I remember you guys put us on right in the middle of Jellicoe. There was the one course that had the big drop, and in the middle it had like a bundle of rocks. And Steve Kraft was my crew chief at the time. Well, he was my spotter too. And we didn't have no headsets. We didn't have nothing. I had my carbon fiber turtle caps on, no fire suits, Ray-Bans on. And we went out and had an absolute blast. And I came down that hill, and I remember I floored it because I was going to roll it. The driver's tire hits. I do a full rollover in the air, land on my tires almost into the crowd. Ray-Bans were crooked. I'll never forget it. Ray-Bans were all crooked. Helmet was about to come off. I looked over at Steve. I said, are we in? And the judge, he looks over at the judge, and the judge says, you're good. And I remember front digging that baby over and just trying to hit those rocks in the middle, man. I was hooked after that. That was it for me.
And Rancho never figured it out, right?
No, Rancho heard about it right away, and I got a phone call from them, and the only thing Shane said to me, he says, are you okay? And I said, I'm good, man. He says, perfect. I'll see you when you get back. And I said, you don't care about the buggy? He says, nope, I just want to make sure you're okay. And I said, the buggy is good. I rolled it, but I never touched the roof. And he started laughing, and after that, man, we've been buddies since. We've been hooked. And I mean, I've done so much with that buggy. I own it now fully, and it's been great. I mean, I still have it. I just put a new motor in it. Putting a new motor in it now, rewiring the thing because it was built in '05 by Rob Bonney. And buggy's been awesome. But, still have my We Rock rig. So I did that. And we did, let me see, I I started in the stock modified class just after that '06 run with the buggy, because I finally figured out that that buggy was way outclassed, and I had no business being in the unlimited class anyways. With, I mean, at the time, what was his name? Dean was in there, and
Dean
who had
Bullock. Yep.
the yeah, who had the Maxis buggy at the time? It was a moon buggy, one seater.
Jesse Haynes.
No, it wasn't Jesse, because Jesse was still in. I think Jesse was in pro mod when I was in stock mod.
Okay.
But all these guys that have been around forever were all there, and I am in their class. I'm like, man, I'm out of here. I gotta finish my stock mod rig. But being in the business, man, I from the beginning I decided that the pro mod class, the unlimited, it was nothing for me anyways. I liked the rigs to look like they were real cars, and my customers to be able to relate to it. And then I like the technicality of it too. Like you just had to really use your vehicle. But my rig was, hell, you remember it was a YJ. It was as stock as they come. Had a Dana 44 from a Cherokee in the back, and I had a Dana 30 in the front for a long time. And stick shift. I mean, dude, it was a blast. That's for sure.
So you had your spotter back then when you were doing We Rock was Scott. Was that correct?
Yep, old Scott Pitts.
Yep.
He still gets on me about getting back into it.
Really? So you guys
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
come out and be Team Burger King?
Yeah, that's about right, man. Him and the Burger King guy.
That always
Yeah.
cracked me up.
Oh yeah, no, he I don't remember where we were at one time, and little Rich comes around, and I had a King. Scott Pitts hates the Burger King guy, right?
Yeah.
He just he's terrified of it. So we'd always mess with him. We put the mask like up on the wall under his bunk bed. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff, and it would terrorize him. Well, little Rich comes around. Oh, I know where we were at Grand Nationals in Texas. And little Rich came around, and I had that mask, and he's like, "Let me have that mask." And I told little Rich, I said, "Hey man, I'm gonna let you in on something. I'm not responsible what happens to you. Like, don't kick me off the race." Like I looked at Rich and I told him, I said, I'm not gonna be responsible for anything that happens to you. You can't disqualify me. I have nothing to do with it. You're doing this on your own. Give me the mask. So he comes around the side of the trailer, man, with that mask on. I remember Scott ran, and man, we laughed our asses off. But I just remember telling Rich, you can't disqualify me. If he beats your ass, I'm not responsible. I'm just letting you know. So, but that was Grand Nationals. That was right there in Texas.
That's
I remember
awesome.
that one.
So what were some other stories like that from you guys competing? What did you like? You did all stock nationals in Hannibal, correct?
Yep, we did all stock. Man, we did a lot of stuff. I mean, we ran from 2005 to 2006 to 2010. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I ran till 2010, but man, oh God, the stories. Dustin was the best at announcing, man. That guy would have a blast with me shifting through the gears. If you remember, I'd get on an area, and I used to shift from first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, man. And he would go wild over that. Oh man, he would just go wild. He's like, "Look at him shifting through the gears. Them squirrels are getting tired." I mean, I just remember him yelling all the time. And, I mean, we had a blast, man. All the guys, looking back, you look at Derek West, and watching us progress together. He moved up to the pro mod class. And I think at the end of the day, I hope he hears this, but I think at the end of the day, he moved up to the pro mod class because he knew I was coming after his ass. But we'll never know, right? I love Derek, man. He's a cool cat. But we had, oh God, Kurt. He was awesome. He always had, him and Derek had if I had to say, they pushed the damn stock modified class to the limit. I never cheated at all. I never did anything. Not saying that they cheated, but they would push your rule book. I mean, they knew how to do that. I never learned how to do that. I wanted a stock mod Jeep. I wanted to just, that was identical to my other Jeep. It just it was lighter because it didn't have all the seats and all that crap in it. But I'll never forget, we were somewhere in Tennessee, and you had to come up to me and you go, "Hey man, I gotta measure your fenders and your hood because they're claiming that it's lowered." And I was thinking to myself, like, man, I'm the most stock vehicle in this whole damn group, but do what you got to do. And I'm thinking to myself, I wasn't that guy, but I was gonna say something to you, like, why don't you go check Kurt's hood? You know,
Oh, we
like leave
did.
me alone.
We did.
You know, and I remember that. You know what I'm saying? But it was just I never was that guy, so I never said anything back then. And you always said something to us that has always stuck with me from the days I started racing with you, and it was always, if you were in that position, would you be bitching about it? And because I came to you one day and I was saying something to you about somebody hitting a cone or something, and he said, you said that to me. And ever since then, I was just like, you know what? It is what it is. If you didn't see it or the judge didn't see it, I ain't saying nothing about it, because it's just a bunch of bitching that's not going to work, you know?
Right. And it's a karma thing, is what I see.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it always comes around to get you.
Well, it was funny because you said that to me, and like I said, I say it to my kids. I say it to my kids now. I'm like, hey, she'll be barrel racing, and she'll say something. She'll say something to me. I'm like, if that was you, would you be bitching about it if you were doing that? And she's no. I'm like, okay, well then drop it. So, but no, man. I remember Eric Miller. You remember we were at Sequatchie, and
Oh,
I think it
God,
was
I remember
Sequatchie,
that
wasn't it?
nightmare event.
So we're there, and nightmare event, man. I had to pull a Super Duty from behind my trailer and my spot, because they blocked my whole damn spot, and I broke my rear axle, and I had to go back down there. So I had to, with a broken axle, I'm sitting here yanking on some dude's Super Duty. He comes back after I'm working on my Jeep at the time, because I slid the thing sideways. You couldn't get through the drive, and he comes back pissed off because I yanked on his truck. But either way, I remember Eric showing up. Eric had ran a couple runs with us at the time, in that, remember that gold Rubicon he had?
Yep.
And I came to you and I had said, man, like, should we let this guy run? I mean, that Jeep's dangerous. If his spotter gets near it, it's going to get cut just looking at it. And you're like, you know this. And I remember you made him put some tape over some cuts or something like that, because it was so bad.
Yeah.
But that guy, he had destroyed. I mean, the first race he came to, that Rubicon was like brand new. I think he wheeled like every day, because by the time he came to the next race, you know, it was just one of those things where you're just like, what the hell happened to your Jeep? It was destroyed. I mean, he must have rolled it over 50 times. But I remember saying that to you there, and then I remember his spotter got cut that one day on his arm, if you remember that.
Yeah, I
Pretty
think
nasty.
that was up at Jellicoe when he got cut.
Was it Jellicoe? I remember.
I thought
Yeah.
it was Jellicoe's where he got cut, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but I remember he got cut really bad from the Jeep, and I came over and I'm like, I told you this shit was going to happen.
Yep.
So,
And that's when we changed the rules.
Yeah. And just to see all these guys, you know, all of us have progressed, and some have moved on and done more with it. And, it's just been really cool, man. I mean, it was a cool time. I ran for a while, and hell, look at Tennessee at the, what's her name's place?
Julia.
Yep. Julia's place. I mean, those were some awesome times, man. I mean, it's just, just to watch the progression of the sport, and then to see it. I'm just amazed that it's not where it was at back then. Like, you would think that the rock crawling part of it, and I see Jesse doing some stuff and some other stuff going on, but I've been out of it pretty good. I know I've been trying to come back and come see you and run with you guys a couple times a year, but the damn, our shows fall at the same time, so it's been kind of tough to figure that out. But I still got my rig. I did the XRA too. Rancho was the main sponsor of it for a while, if you remember that. And
correct.
so they had asked me, they said, hey man, like, we'd like for you to go up to Indiana and race up at Badlands. And I'm like, sounds good, man. I'm on my way, no problem. Loaded up. A couple buddies jumped in with me. We haul ass up there, 19-hour drive, and I got to race a total of 1 minute and 21 seconds in 2 days. And I remember calling Shane on the ride home, and it was miserable. We had to sleep in the trailer. We couldn't find a hotel room in that town. We couldn't do anything. Cold. And I mean, and all, Mike was right. I mean, he makes me go through tech, and I had to add a ball valve and all this stuff, and it was just hell. And then I get done, and I remember calling Shane on the way back, and I say, hey, I don't care if you're a sponsor or not or what is going on, but I'm not ever going back. I'm done. And he's like, well, what's going on? I said, dude, I can go to my We Rock stuff and I get to run 40 minutes. You know, if I screw up and run 10 minutes in every course, I'm still running 40 minutes that day. Like, I'm having a blast. You know, I'm sitting behind the wheel for a while, and then I get to watch all my buddies do stuff and all that. Now, you know, and I told him, I said, I'm not doing this XRA crap again. And then the next time I went up is they called me and they said, hey, Rob Bonney needs a car for XRA Nationals, and it was in Jellicoe. So I took the buggy up to Jellicoe and I told Rob, I said, do not ruin, because I know, you know how Rob Bonney is. I said, do not destroy my rig. And he did destroy my rig. He destroyed a wheel and a caliper and some other stuff, trying to, he was ahead of Shannon for a bit, and then that happened. And after that, I was like, stop, like, you gotta, because Rob would have kept driving it till the wheel came off and would have just kept going in 3 wheels, right? You know how he is. But speaking of Shannon, we were at Sequatchie, and I knew who Shannon was. I knew who Nick were, but I didn't know them. We were hanging around our RV at the time, and he had parked next to us. And I remember him coming down. We were around our campfire, and this guy walks up behind me, and he goes, hey, man, I think I may build a car for the stock mod and get into y'all's class. It looks like it'd be fun. And Shannon was just running pro mod back then. And he had the black, it was like a TJ or something he had built for that. And Nick was a spotter. And I mean, those guys are a trip for sure. And Shannon, this guy's standing behind me, and he says that. And I said, well, there's always room for people behind me in the line, you know. And I turned around, and it was Shannon Campbell. And I'll never forget that day, because after that, you know, I can call Shannon. We've always been buddies. I see him in Moab or whatever, and we've always been cool, you know what I mean? But he laughed and just kind of hung out with us and drank a bunch of beer that night. But that was just when he had signed, I think he had just signed with Monster, if you remember.
Okay.
He had so he used to drink some other kind of beer, and then he had to switch to the beer he had to drink from there on because of Monster or something. So I remember him telling the story about it, and he's like, yeah, I'd like this beer now because they're paying the bills. So, but I remember telling him that. I was like, yeah, there's always space for you, you know, behind us in the line or something like that. And I turned around and it was him. I was like, oh, hell. He goes, I like you already. And then him and Nick are standing right there. But they've always been cool. Like I said, man, just watching all of us, you know, going to Julia's place and watching Jesse Haynes do that shootout. I mean, I've watched that video probably 15 times. Because remember, at that time, I had Chris coming out and recording everything.
Yep.
So that was part of our We Rock videos that we used to put out, those DVDs we used to do. And, you know, just watching all that stuff back then, it'd just be cool to see it take off and come back and do that. I mean, the spectators just love that kind of stuff.
I think a lot of it has to do with is that people aren't driving the old rigs as much. New guys get into it because they've got a JK, and then and then they end up buying a JL or a Gladiator, and you know, nobody wants to really beat the piss out of those coming out to an event. So it's the buggy guys. You know, we tried to push the mod stock and the pro mod classes for so long that it's now become truly, you know, unlimited. That's where the car count is at. That and sportsmen, where guys can bring their trail rigs out and beat on them and compete. Sometimes they're more of a handful than the pros are, because the pros are, you know, the cars are all built pretty similar. The driving skills or styles are, you know, they're more experienced is I guess the best way to put it. So the competition typically is a little closer, although, you know, there's still 2 or 3 guys that are always going to be on top. But it is different. The sport is different now, and I don't know if it'll ever get back to those early years until people decide it's time to start bringing out JKs and beating on them.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun time to watch, man. Because, I mean, even my little short wheelbase and some of the pro mods, you know, the wheelbases, we still had trouble going through the courses that you all would set up. I can't imagine trying to take a 4-door school bus through there. I mean, it would be, you know, and I have every model Jeep, and every one of them have, you know, I do certain things with all of them. I'm like you said, I'm not going to take my Gladiator and do that, but I will take my Gladiator and go overlanding and go enjoy nature and go enjoy trail riding and all that stuff, but I'm not going to go and rock crawl with it.
Right.
I don't have any interest. I got the buggy, I got the LJ, I got the buggies, the other buggy, I got the YJ. I don't need to take a $60,000 plus car and go beat on it. And that's just doing a lift kit. That's not even doing axles on them. You're spending 15 grand more just to do axles on these things anymore.
Exactly. And I think that's part of the that's part of why the sport is slower to grow. It's getting those, now it's trying to get those guys that have built buggies get involved into the sport, and taking their trail rig buggies, truggies, whatever you want to call them, and moving that direction. But it's happening, so that's good. I don't know if it'll ever be, it's like NASCAR. NASCAR's not the same as it used to be. Definitely not as big, and I think that that the mentality or the interests of everybody has, not everybody, but there's interest swings. And
yeah, I think the sports all turn for sure. I would agree with that. I mean, look at KOH, look at Ultra 4, look at our, We Rock, look at their NASCAR, like you said. It's all gonna change. I mean, I left in 2010. It was time for me to focus on the business.
Right.
And I spent a lot of years where I was gone, and I'd come back and this and that. And I wasn't doing events, but I mean, we'd go to Off-Road Impact in Vegas. We do SEMA, we do, Expo and Pomona. Whatever we could find to go do and do seminars and learn more. I mean, we were just a wealth of knowledge at that point, just trying to soak it all in. Not a wealth of knowledge, but learning it, And, in 04, Alicia came on board here and probably about, February or so, she came on board and started working here and took over, it was just her and I at the front counter and her brother. And I was turning wrenches back then. So, when I left in 2006 to go run, I'd leave. I was still a mechanic too. So when I'd leave, I was, hurting the shop in a way, but man, I needed it. You know what I'm saying? I needed to do it, and it was a blast. We bought the trailer and all that good stuff. And then in 2010, like I stopped running, and I wanted to focus on the business. So I spent 2 years. I still had the race trailer at the time. So in 2012 is when I decided, it's time for us to start doing events. And man, you talk about evolving. I mean, it's just everything changes, and we're back to not doing as many. But I think in 2012, I think I did 42 events or something.
Wow.
And then in 13, I did 37, I think it was. And, I've dwindled them down because you figure out which ones are worth it, which ones are not worth going to. Because once you're setting up a 44-foot trailer at the time with a big canopy, NASCAR style canopy, and you set up a whole showroom, they have to be worthwhile. I mean, it takes 6, 7, 8 hours to set up, 3 hours to tear down, but you got to make sure that all these events are worth it. So when I was wanting to come back to We Rock at the time, I was doing too many events, so I couldn't schedule anything out because it was, do I go make money or do I go race?
No, true. And that's making the money. You need to make the money before you can go out and race.
Yeah. And, and still wheeling, you're still going out wheeling, going to Moab, going to the Rubicon, and for me, going to the Rubicon's 50 hours, going to Moab is 34 to 38 hours. So still wanting to do all this stuff and having to do events and all that good stuff. So, a lot of things changed, but yeah, I've been looking at it heavy. And when I say I got the rig, man, I got the rig. Nothing's been done to it. It's sitting there with 4 flat tires, and about once every 3 months, I've put air in the tires and I run it around the property and run it through the citrus grove, just hauling ass, bouncing it around and enjoying it.
Awesome. So you're doing I noticed you've been doing a lot of social runs. Like you just got back from doing Death Valley. Talk about those. Are those to help build the business as well?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, I started dwindling the shows down the last couple of years. Last 2 years ago, I bought the property here about 30 acres in Christmas, Florida, and we got citrus farm and all that stuff. So wanted to dwindle down the shows, but then I also wanted to be able to keep doing the events, the fun events that I call them. So what I do is I either have where I open it up to our customers, um, and I'll take a bunch of customers and we'll go to Georgia, we'll go to Tennessee, we'll go to Moab, like we'll haul 12 vehicles out to Moab, and then some people fly out, some people ride with us, and then we go out and have a great time. But more than anything, man, it's just, I do them because I want to do the events. For a long time there, I was just putting on events, and then anybody was allowed to come if you found out about them. And I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years back, I ran into a situation where, we go out to this place and we're wheeling, and gentleman breaks 10 feet into the trail, and he's not my customer. So I just stand back and watch the other shop guys that are there that are his customer. They don't, they're not doing anything. So finally we jump in there, we fix it, we get him back on the trail. He gets to wheel the whole weekend. And a Thursday after that, we come over to our social place. We used to hang out at Sonic. And on Thursday, I come over and I look at Alicia and I'm like, does he have new steering on his Jeep? She's like, yeah. I said, did you buy it from us? Nope. I was like, okay. So that changed my whole, after that, I got sour on that. And I just said, you know what, from now on, if you're not my customer, you're not going to be invited. So we got back into that, and now we'll do all kinds of stuff, man. We do overlanding, we'll do wheeling trips, we do stuff, but it's mostly we just invite the customers, and it's just something for us to do. And it's just, I like doing it with other people, not just me going out and one guy or something. I mean, sometimes you prefer just to be the one guy that you hang out with all the time, but most of the time we invite a bunch of people and have a good time. We just got back from Death Valley. We'll link up with people, like this trip we did with Modern Jeeper Adventures with Corey and Jesse. And Dale Albright came out in March, and we did a Death Valley trip, and he was there. And I'll tell you what, that guy knows Death Valley like no other.
No, that's very true. But then again, they're both about the same age.
Oh, man. I'm sure you'll hear from Corey on that one, huh?
Oh, not from Corey, from Dell.
Yeah. Dell said he's been going out to Death Valley once a year like that for 35 or 36 years.
Right.
I mean, he knows that area like nothing, man. It was awesome. And just to learn, because last year when I went in March, I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea about Death Valley. I've never done any research on it, nothing. You just learn a little bit here and there. So Corey's like, hey, man, why don't you come out and hang out with us? And so I went out there in March, and, man, you talk about every time you turn a corner, it's just something else is amazing. Just when you think you saw something awesome, you're just going to see something else that's better in 2 feet, and it was exceptional. And I mean, I've done a couple years back, I like doing stuff with my daughter. And now I got a 5-year-old and a 2-month-old. So, with Kayla, my oldest, she's 17 now, but, started doing stuff with her, and we did a Colorado trip for 2 weeks where we live out of the Jeep. We don't get hotels. We don't do any of that. So I did that with her in 17, I think it was. And then in 18, Jeep Jamboree invited me out to Rubicon. I did that with her, and we did the Montrose Trail. And I mean, man, I like getting out there. I love wheeling. I love going fast. I love all that part, but just going out there and putting out a tent and camping like we did when we were younger is just something I want to make sure my kids get to enjoy and see the area. She went out to Death Valley with me in March, and man, it's just awesome to get them out. And, when my 5-year-old gets to be old enough, I'll take her and do the same thing.
That's great. That's cool. So is there any place in the United States that's on your life list that you want to wheel that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I got to do quite a few of them this year in September. I always go on a birthday trip, and Unlimited LJ Adventure decided that they were going to do their adventure the week of my birthday. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do that one. So I've always sponsored those guys. I always stand behind them. I got an LJ. And so went with them this year, and we went from Oklahoma to Missouri, and that took a bunch of places off my list. The videos, I think the YouTube video comes out this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to pull out the date, but they did a 5-part YouTube videos that they're going to do. What's his name from 320? I think it's called. Blake and all them guys came out and did a whole recording on it. So, but we got to do, oh man, S'more. That was a place I always wanted to go to. And I got to do it. And let me tell you, that place will tear up some tires. But it was a blast. We had a great time, good group. We went over to, I'd always wanted to go down to Disney and do the waterfalls and all that. So I did that. Next year, I'm going to do Burris Valley. I want to do that next. Still my favorite place, I think, so far, man, is when you took us to Grand Nationals. Steve Kraft and I took off and decided to go take the buggy and his TJ and his wife's TJ and go to Clayton, Oklahoma.
Right.
When it was open, and Slim, I got to go over to Slim's house, got him off the couch. And we went and played, and I still, so far, that's been my favorite place that I wheeled when it came to being horribly hard. I mean, I like a challenge. So that's one of those places. And then next year I'm going to plan Burris Valley, and then I'm going to go up and see Corey in Colorado. I want to bring the buggy and the LJ, and I want to hit all the hard stuff in Colorado that he can put me on. I like both, man. I like both sides. Never been interested in KOH. I remember when Rancho was the main sponsor of it at the beginning, they had asked me if I wanted to run, and when you tell them that they got to spend $30,000-$40,000 on the buggy to update it, that kind of slows that whole idea down. But I don't know. Tony Pellegrino called me the other day and asked me if I was still interested in KOH, because a couple of years back when he had gotten out of the buggy, we talked, and it was an option for me to get the buggy and get behind the wheel of that one, but I decided against it. Just, man, being from Florida, to run KOH is just tough. We don't have anywhere to practice here. So I'd have to be out away from home and away from the business for so long doing pre-runs and all that stuff that it's never really interested me from that aspect of it. I like the racing part of it. I'd love to do it anyways. It's, it's in our blood, right? But I don't know. And Tony Pellegrino called me the other day and said that I didn't really get to talk to him too much because of where I was at, but he had asked me if I still was thinking about it, that they were thinking about doing another class. I don't know if you know anything about it, but I'm sure something will be said soon about it, but there was going to be another class that was more of the stock mod class type of racing.
Huh. Interesting. No, I hadn't heard anything yet, but
and maybe it's not supposed to be out, but I'm sure we're going to hear of a new class coming out. It's sort of on the EMC side, but more of a stock,
even more stock than the 4600.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And he knows how I am about that stuff. Like I really do. I mean, like you said, man, I mean, we all want to have the Shannon Campbell and the all the bad stuff, right? But we all not, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we all can't afford it. We're not going to do it. I'm way smarter than that. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a rig. And for us on the East Coast, it's even harder because 99% of my customers don't even know what KOH is. True. So for us over here, for me to promote it and for me to focus and spend a bunch of money on racing in it, for me, it doesn't do anything for my customer base. So I have to really think about that, because ultimately that's what's paying to be there. Right. So I got to make the wise decisions. Now, do I want to load up in my truck and trailer and bring my LJ or the buggy and go out there and have some fun that week? And of course, but that doesn't mean I need to race in it. So I don't know. I mean, I've watched some of the stuff that Derek was doing on the East Coast, going out and running his rig and the rock bouncer stuff, and that all looked fun too. And I thought about going out with him a couple times when he was doing it and in the buggy, but it's just have fun, man. My stuff's all mostly set up for fun, and I'm not, the only thing I got set up that could race is, like you said, get in the sportsman class in We Rock, and I may do that again next year. Who knows?
Well, cool. So what's on the horizon? What's the future look like for Jeepers Den?
Man, I don't know. We're just gonna keep doing our thing. I don't, I've never been big on the internet, so we don't do stuff online. We're just a brick and mortar, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. Hopefully future always is, it's hopefully somebody else wants this place more than I do, and we can retire and, go do more overlanding and more wheeling, get everything loaded up behind the toter home and ride out.
Yeah, because you're like real close to 50 now then, right?
I'm 45.
45. Well, that's getting closer.
Yep. Actually, you know what? I'll take that back. I'm 46.
46. Okay.
Yeah. Once you get 40, does it matter?
Oh, you'll say that when you hit 50, and then when you hit 60. 58 is when I realized I was starting to get old. And
Yeah.
it was because everything started to hurt when I got up in the morning. That whatever happened the night before or the day before started to hurt the next day.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you feel like I'm 30 or 28, somewhere in that age. But when you do something, it's like, yeah, it kind of reminds you you're not 30 years old anymore.
True.
But no, I mean, just go, man. I mean, like I said, I have the citrus now, so that's a focus. I've been doing way better with that than when we got it. We broke every record since. Every year we just get more and more, more production out of the trees, and so we do all the work ourselves, and so that keeps us kind of busy. And then the shop obviously is slammed. We never slowed down through any of that, so. We've been fortunate enough to, I think people were spending more money. We're actually busier than we were before COVID, but I think people just wanted their stuff down. They're not driving them to work anymore. They're working from home. So their Jeeps were just sitting there. So they would call us and go, hey, you know what? Let's just do that lift kit I've been wanting to do. And I don't need the Jeep, so let's just go ahead and do it now. And so it's been fun, and to see the change in our business, even, a lot of people think Florida, we're not building rock crawlers. We're not building this, but man, we do everything. We build mall crawlers, we build rock crawlers, we build whatever anybody wants to do. We're doing a bunch of overland vehicles for people now. And we'll put solar panels on them. We'll do whatever they need.
Cool. So you're changing with the times, staying current.
Yep. Yeah. And if you don't do that, I don't think you have much of a future if you don't stay current.
True. Well, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think is important?
No, man. I mean, I'm sure we haven't touched on a bunch, I guess. We don't get caught up enough anymore. But no, I mean, we're, doing good, man. Just keep rolling, and hope to see you out there sometime at We Rock, and we can get out there and run again. I'll try to bring the Burger King man out with me, and if he can, he's old now too. He's not young like he was jumping around the rocks. I don't know if he can do it anymore.
We're all getting that way. Trust me.
Yeah. He hits me up all the time about going out. I keep telling him, I don't think you can run around the rocks like you used to, but we'll see.
Long in the tooth and gray hair. Jeez.
Yep.
Well, Ricky, I want to say thank you for coming on board and sharing your life and your history in off-road with our listeners. And, I hope that everything that you do in the future is solid and prosperous and keeps you doing what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Rich. It's been fun, man.
Okay. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. See ya.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.